P.J. Kesmodel has done an outstanding job, very impressed, as they have won now 5 consecutive DIAA state championships. And recently they defeated Tower Hill in a slugfest, 12-10, as P.J. Kesmodel has done a remarkable and really something really stellar for the Cape Vikings program, especially in lacrosse, as now they have 5 titles in lacrosse, and the most for Delaware is St. Andrews with 6, and they're tied with Tower Hill with 5. So with the 5 in a row in Delaware, they are number 2, as they are tied with Tower Hill. And in the regular season, the Cape Vikings defeated Tower Hill, so it was the second time in about a couple weeks. And P.J. Kesmodel, they prevailed once again, had a 3-goal performance from Sarah Young, along with 2 goals from Ali Yeager and Anna Frederick. And Frederick is going on a scholarship to Temple University. As the Vikings improved to 17-1 on the season, and their only loss non-conference to Queen Anne's, as they defeated all comers during the regular season. They defeated the Sussex Tech Ravens and everybody in their conference. And most of the games were not even close, as they also defeated Worcester Prep, another team out of Maryland, are highly ranked. So the lacrosse program, and you have to credit the athletic director for booking all of the top-notch teams in the conference and outside the conference. So P.J. Kesmodel, you have to credit him, as he is really writing history for the Cape Vikings lacrosse program. As the Lady Vikings have won 63 straight in-state lacrosse games since May 2nd, 2009, when they were defeated by the Lady Cardinals of St. Andrews by a score of 13-12, and that's their last loss. And really, Kesmodel, he had a lot of talent, and that's another reason. But you have to really look at the coaching, as with him leading the program, they have done a remarkable thing. Also, another team that did pretty well, you have to look at the Sussex Tech Ravens with their first-year head coach, Kathleen Foulardi, as the Ravens had a 9-game winning streak throughout the season. But that streak was snapped by Worcester Prep, the team that the Vikings took on in the regular season, and prevailed. The Ravens did lose 19-5, as the Ravens could not stop that potent offense. The Ravens' season ended, however, when Tower Hill defeated the team 20-8 in the first round and bounced them in the DIAA tournament, as it was very difficult for her squad to be on the road, and some of the losses that they had during the regular season affected their seeding, especially that last regular season game at the hands of the Cape Vikings. And that's why they had to open on the road, and they struggled, and that's why they did not advance in the tournament. Once again, I'd like to thank and really credit P.J. Kesmodel for 5 consecutive state championships in girls lacrosse, as we're hoping in the next upcoming weeks that Mr. Kesmodel will be able to come on the program and talk about his stellar season in the Cape Viking program that he's really molded and shaped. We're going to take our first commercial break. Is coming up John Busby from Special Olympics Delaware on the Anthony Joseph Sports Show, live at Jimmy's Grill in Bridgeville.
Do you have metal? Get it to Fitzgerald Salvage and Recycling. Fitzgerald's pays you cash. Fitzgerald's will pick up your unwanted vehicles and will buy your car or lawnmower batteries. If it's made of metal, Fitzgerald's pays cash and recycles it, which helps the environment. Fitzgerald's will also pick up and deliver roll-off dumpsters, and they accept electronics too, including cell phones and computers. Fitzgerald's is local and family-owned since 1935. Go to fitzgeraldsonline.com or find us on Facebook.
When owning an Echo product, you will discover it's about innovation, not limitation. Southern States in Milford has your complete line of Echo chainsaws, trimmers, and blowers. At Southern States in Milford, try the PB250 blower with a 2-stroke engine, a locking latch that keeps the tube securely connected, and a rotational control, which makes it easier to handle and reduce the stress on the operator's arm. Best of all, the power equipment is backed with a 5-year consumer warranty. Stop by Southern States at 7108 Williamsville Road or call.
And welcome back to the Anthony and Joseph Sports Show. Now I'd like to bring in my special guest, John Busby. John, thanks for taking the time today.
$77, you can get a heater that will heat 1,000 square feet on just pennies.
John, Elena Deldon in her rookie season had a tremendous evening.
Hey everybody, Jim Weller here.
Talk about her performance.
Talking to you today about carports. We sell carports. They include delivery and setup right to your yard. You can get a 12 by 21 for as little as $695. Give us a call or come see us today.
Hey, this is Colin Walls of Wall Service Center in downtown Milford, letting you know we do all types of auto repairs, including brakes, struts and shocks, tune-ups and timing belts, and we specialize in custom exhaust. We've been in this business since 1958, so we understand what our customers need. So if you're looking for a new repair shop, come to the old repair shop, Wall Service Center, Front Street.
Griner, but I think what they came away with is realizing that, you know what, Elena Deldon is every bit as good as Brittany Griner, and some would say even better. Deldon finished with 22 points. She had 16 in the first half when Sky really did pull away, 7 for 10 shooting from the field. And so, you know, we've seen her and watched her here in the first state. We know what she can do. And yesterday, you know, she put on a show called ESPN2 in front of a national audience against Brittany Griner. So just a real impressive debut for her.
Do you think the Phoenix Mercury will regret not choosing Deldon number 1 overall?
Well, you know, it'll be interesting to see. Brittany Griner's no slacker. She had 17 points and 8 rebounds, 4 blocks, and, of course, 2 of them were dunks. And there's only been, I think I read somewhere a stat, there's been less than 20 dunks in WNBA history. And so she certainly was impressive. It was a dunk off of 2 feet. And so, you know, she's good, there's no doubt. She had a little bit of foul trouble yesterday. But, you know, what Deldon gives you is the versatility. She, you know, hit a 3, and we watched her hit plenty of those here at the University of Delaware. And, of course, at Ursuline Academy, even though the three-point line is actually, I believe it's a foot 4 inches longer than it is in the NCAA tournament, that didn't seem to bother her at all. So, you know, Deldon is a lot more versatile. Brittany Griner is your typical post-up player that most people are at 6'8" in the WNBA. So, you know, it's going to become a matter of, you know, I think both players will fulfill and reach their potential. But I think, you know, I'm not so sure if I didn't have that first pick, if I would have taken Deldon just knowing that she is versatile. She can post people up, down on the low post, or she can step out and hit a jumper. You know, anybody who watched that game yesterday, they saw her basically make every one of what I consider her patented moves that she's made over the years. A three-pointer, she, you know, rolled and drove to the basket and rolled in some layups, and then, you know, she had a couple times where she fakes like she's going in and she pops out and hits that little fall-away jumper. So she can do it all. There's no question about that. And, you know, I think if you had asked her, she would be the first to tell you she couldn't have asked for a better first performance out there.
Now you had Tulsa with the number 3 pick, and number 4 you had the Washington Mystics. Were you surprised that they did not try to vault up to the second position and try to snag Elena Deldon? She would have been a lot closer to home if they would have selected her.
Well, I don't think the Chicago Sky really cared how close Elena Deldon was going to be to home, and so I think that's what it kind of came down to. I think, you know, you look at the first three, you know, superstars, the big 3 they called them. You had Griner, Deldon, and the girl from Notre Dame,
Skylar Diggins.
Right now, but yeah, thank you, Skylar Diggins. I don't think that, you know, it's a business. I don't think Chicago cared, you know, to appease Washington or Deldon. It certainly would have been nice for us Delaware fans to be able to go see her play half her games down in Washington, but you know, it is a business, and Deldon realizes that. You know, she made no secret about it when she went up to Connecticut for her freshman year. Originally, she was homesick. She had a lot of maturing and a lot of growing up to do, and you know, she's made it perfectly clear, or did so before she went into the NBA draft, she realized she probably wasn't going to play close to home and wasn't going to see much of home during the WNBA season. And that's just the reality of being a professional athlete in any sport. But no, it doesn't surprise me. My guess is Washington did try to move up, as well as all the other teams, but I don't think Chicago, there was any way they were going to let that second pick get away.
How do you think Del Don is going to make out being so far away from home?
Well, I think she has matured a lot. I think she's gotten used to being away from home a little bit more. Anybody that knows her, the story's well chronicled of her relationship with her sister Lizzie, who is blind and has cerebral palsy, and really their relationship is by touch, and obviously that's hard to do. But in this day and age of technology, we've solved just about everything about how to have physical touch from a long distance away. So I do think there's no question about it that she is going to miss that. However, I do think there will be times when Del Don is able to get together with her sister. I believe her whole family, other than her sister, and I don't know this for a fact, I don't think her sister took the trip, but it made it sound like her father was out in Phoenix yesterday. Her brother, Gene, who she's very close to, is her agent, and so my guess is he was out there for her debut. And so, the Del Don family can certainly afford to fly to places to watch Del Don play and to spend time with her. So, unlike a lot of WNBA players, you have to remember that I think the ceiling on the salary for WNBA players in the low 100,000s, and so it's not like in the NBA where even if the parents don't have a lot of money, the players make plenty of money to fly their parents out or their siblings or whoever to see them play. That's not the way it is in the WNBA. But fortunately for Del Don, she has a family that is well off financially, and so they can get to see her play. So I think that's going to help with the homesickness factor. Is she's going to see her family a lot. Now, how often she'll get to see Lizzie again, I'm not sure, and I'm certainly not going to try to guess whether Lizzie's able to fly or is comfortable flying. But, anytime you leave a sibling for the first time, there's going to be that hole that's left there. And so my guess is she is going to miss Lizzie very much. And but at the same time, I think she realizes that, it's time for her to make this step. And so she's going to have to, make that sacrifice of having that close relationship with her sister, at least on a day-to-day basis.
So the Chicago Sky were very confident that Del Don would be okay and not want to be traded at some point.
Well, again, I don't think anybody is looking past the next couple of years. I've always said, and this is strictly my opinion and only speculation, that I wouldn't be surprised if Elena Del Don doesn't play in the WNBA for a few years so that she can hone her skills and play in the Olympics and then retire from basketball, both professionally and as an amateur, because I know she has other things she wants to do. She wants to work with children. She wants to work with special needs children. She does have a family that's in a financial situation where she could work for her father's company if need be. And, so it'll be interesting to see. And, again, that's just purely my speculation on my part. But I've had the opportunity to follow her and cover her, obviously, get to know her a little bit in some of the things that we do with Special Olympics. And she is as genuine a person as she appears to be. And anybody that hasn't met her and always wonders, is she just putting on a show? I can honestly tell you she is a very, very genuine person. And she wants to make a difference in this world. And right now, she plans to use basketball to do that. And so, when Chicago took her, I don't think that they were looking at, is she going to demand a trade and stuff like that. And, I think you also have to remember it is the WNBA. It's not the NBA or the NFL. And I don't think the superstars have the power in this league that they might in other leagues with these teams. And so, I just don't think it's something they probably thought about when they drafted her.
Do you think Del Don is good enough to play in the NBA? We hear a lot of speculation from Mark Cuban, the Dallas Maverick owner, that he might perhaps select Brittany Griner in the second round in the upcoming NBA draft. Do you think Del Don would have a chance if they're talking about Griner?
No, I don't think Brittany Griner or Elena Del Don or any other woman basketball player, for that matter, would have a chance to play in the NBA. And I don't say that, obviously, to be a chauvinist or anything like that. That's just my objective opinion. And part of my objective opinion that's been formulated on that topic is hearing some of the other women basketball players from the past and coaches, say that there's no way a woman could successfully compete in the NBA. So, you asked specifically about Del Don. No, I do not think she could play in the NBA, nor do I think Brittany Griner
Now, speaking of the NBA, the Philadelphia 76ers are still searching for a head coach when Doug Collins resigned. Who do you think they will choose as the next head coach?
Well, I think they probably like the name that's going around right now for several teams is Lionel Hollins, and so I think they would probably try to like to get him just like a lot of other teams would. Whether they're able to do that or not, I'm not sure. I believe Michael Curry is the top assistant for the Sixers. He's gotten some interest. I think Milwaukee is interested in naming him their head coach. And so if the Sixers are going to keep it in-house, they're going to have to move pretty quick. But my guess is if they were going to keep it in-house, they would have done so already. The problem with the 76ers, and I've written about this on my Yahoo Sports Day, is, they're not exactly an attractive team to come coach right now because of the Andrew Bynum situation, which is completely up in the air. And, if he comes back, it could be a problem. If he doesn't come back, it's definitely going to be a problem. And so, there are other teams out there. The Nets, for instance, that seems to be the hot team that coaches might want to go to, both because they have the potential to be a championship team over the next couple of years, as well as having an owner who's willing to pay a lot of money for whoever he wants to get in there. And so, a coach can look at that as making, I can sign a 3-year contract with the Sixers and make, $1.5 million, or I can sign a contract with the Nets and make $3.5 million. If I finish coaching after 3 years either way, I'm much better off if I'm going with the Nets. So that's going to be the biggest challenge for the Sixers, is finding a coach that's willing to come in here that is not only going to be a quality coach, but it's going to excite the fans as well. And, it doesn't mean that they have to have a celebrity come in here, but as you know, Anthony, it always helps to sell tickets if you've got a coach that excites the fans. And I think Lionel Hollins would do that. You may be a little too young to remember him playing as a Sixer, but he did play here with the Sixers a little bit. Of course, as soon as you talk about that, people immediately say, well, Mo Cheeks, we brought him in, and he didn't do us much good either. So, it's kind of a crapshoot with the Sixers. Unfortunately for them, I think it's going to come down to, if you list maybe the top 10 coaches that are going to be available, both current head coaches or head coaches with head coaching experience, or the top assistant coaches who people think should be elevated to be a head coach. For the Sixers, unfortunately, I think it's going to come down to basically who is left on that list after all these other teams fill their positions, because there's a lot of other more attractive jobs in the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, one job is the Clippers with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, so we'll have to see if Hollins would go there.
Yeah, he certainly seems to be high on their list, and Los Angeles is a pretty attractive place to play.
Now, switching gears to the DIAA baseball tournament, are you surprised, John, that the Dover Senators lost in the semifinals?
Well, surprised, no. I guess no, but if you're just a fan looking from the outside in, Dover beat Terraville 8-3 back on May 15th. They were the 6th seed. Dover was coming in. They had a 3-0 lead in the first inning when Nick Spadafino had an RBI single and Zach Stone knocked 2 more guys in with a double. But then you start looking at how the game played out from there. I was getting tweets, excited. Not excited, I shouldn't say excited. I always kind of like to see the underdog do well. And so I was getting a little bit, interested in the game, that all of a sudden Dover had this lead on Terraville. But then you look at when you look at the final score, and then you see how they actually ended up losing the game. Dover left 7 runners on first base, on base through the first 5 innings, and they gave up 9 walks to Terraville. And so it's tough to win ball games when you're giving up a lot of walks and you're stranding your own runners on base at the same time. So it certainly wasn't an upset. Terraville was the number 2 seed. Dover was the number 6 seed, but I was surprised that Dover was not able to hold on to the lead. I thought their best chance in this game was to get a lead and to gain the confidence that, maybe that win we had over Terraville a couple weeks ago wasn't a fluke and we are the better team. But it ended up that, Terraville's got plenty of experience. They started out the season, they won 11 in a row. They dipped a little bit, losing 4 out of 5, and then finished strong. And they're certainly a well-experienced team. They've been to the title game 6 times in 15 years, and they've won 3 state championships recently. So they've been in this playoff pressure before. They've been behind in playoff situations before. So I wasn't surprised that they came back. I did think, though, Dover had to jump out on them early to have any chance. They did, but then I think
John, who do you think's going to win the tournament at Farley Stadium in Wilmington?
Well, again, you look strictly at the rankings. You got number 2 Caravel against number 13 St. Mark's, and a lot of people, if they don't follow the tournament real close, they think, well, of course St. Mark's is there. But Anthony, this is a St. Mark's team that had to win its final 2 games of the regular season to even get into the playoffs. In fact, the scuttlebutt up here in Newcastle County was, wow, look at this. You've got a Salesianum team that's not going to make the playoffs, and Sally's had at least 2 future Division I players, if not 3. And then you've got this St. Mark's team that won the state championship last year. Billy Phillips, the ace, who was a freshman last year, is back with them this year. And so, they didn't lose a huge pitcher. And a lot of the DIA tournament comes down to pitching. And I think that's why once St. Mark's snuck in, and don't get me wrong, they did sneak in to this tournament this year. And from there, they just kind of took off. And so again, this is a St. Mark's team that's won 12 state championships. They've won 7 of the last 10, and by making the playoffs this year, it was the 30th straight year that they've made the DIA tournament in the 44-year history. So it would have been the news of the year in DIA baseball if St. Mark's did not make this tournament, but they did. And now the news of the year is the fact that they are in the state finals as a 13 seed going into the game tomorrow night at Farley Stadium against Caravel Academy.
John, we have to quickly wrap up as we're all out of time. I'd like to thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you, Anthony. I'd be happy to call in anytime. I always enjoy talking to you. You have a great show.
Okay, thanks again, John. Really appreciate it.
All righty, you got it. Thank you.
And we're all out of time as you've been listening to the Anthony Joseph Sports Show live every Tuesday at Jimmy's Grill in Bridgeville.